Glorious devotees, thank you for taking your time to view another presentation on Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini. We now enter into the seventh shower of nectar, flow of divine rapture. The stage of Bhava-bhakti. Bhava, the sprouting of three potencies, Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini. Thereafter, when a Sakti becomes completely mature, it is known as Rati. Another name for Rati is Bhava. This Bhava is the budding stage of the three Swarup Shaktis, eternality, Sandini, cognizance, Samvit, and bliss, Hladini, in the heart of the sadhaka. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Sudha sattva visesatma prema sayamsu samabhak ruchibis chitamasringya krid asal bhava uchyate. When the heart has softened as a result of ruchi, taste, sadhana bhakti becomes bhava-bhakti. This bhava-bhakti is a special manifestation of Sudha Sattva, Sudha Sattva Visesa. It is like a ray of the sun of Prem Bhakti. Some commentary here. Bhava or Rati is the sprout of Sthai Bhava, Prem and its transformations, like Sneha, Mana, and Pranaya. These transformations lead all the way to Mahabhav, the highest stage of Prem. With the intention of establishing this, the intrinsic characteristics, Swarup Lakshana, of Bhava are described with the words Sudha Sattva Visesatma, a special manifestation of Sudha Sattva, and the marginal characteristics, Tatastha Lakshana, of Bhava are described using the term Prema Suryamsu Samyabhak, like a ray of the sun of Prem, and Ruchibis Chitta Masrinya Krit. It softens the heart by various tastes. Sri Bhagavan possesses three potencies, Sandini, existence, Samvit, cognizance, and Hladini, bliss. Here, the term Sudha Sattva Visesatma refers to the essential portion of the cognizance potency, Samvit, endowed with the essential function of the great potency known as Hladini. In his commentary on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verse, beginning Sudha Sattva Visesatma, Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura writes as follows. When, while practicing the previously mentioned sadhana bhakti, the heart melts with taste, ruchi, meaning a desire to attain Krishna, Bhagavat Prapya Abhilas, a desire to do what is favorable for Krishna, Anukuya Abhilas, and a desire to serve the Lord with intimacy, Saharja Abhilas, it is to be understood that the sadhaka has attained the stage of Bhava-bhakti. Bhava-bhakti's intrinsic nature, Swarup, is Sudha Sattva Visesatma. The term Sudha Sattva indicates the self-manifesting cognitive function, Samvit-vritti, of Bhagavan's internal potency. The term Sudha Sattva Visesa indicates the spiritual pleasure potency, Hladini, which is yet another great internal potency of Bhagavan. It is to be understood that Sudha Sattva Visesa includes even the topmost stage of Hladini, Mahabhav. The supreme function, which is full of a desire to do what is beneficial for Sri Krishna, which is the essence of the combination of the Samvit and Hladini potencies, and which is situated in the heart of Bhagavan's eternal associates, being indistinguishably unified with the condition of their heart, is known as Suddha Sattva Visesatma. To reiterate in simple terms, the eternally perfect mood of service, Nitya Siddhabhav, which resides in the heart of Sri Krishna's eternal associates, is called Suddha Sattva Visesa. This Bhava-bhakti is like the first ray of the sun of Prem. For this reason, it has also been called the sprout of Prem. Bhava is rarely attained, sadurlabha, and it makes liberation seem insignificant, moksha lagutra krit. Furthermore, this bhava is said to be like the fully blossoming flower of the wish-fulfilling vine of bhakti. Indeed, the radiance of this flower is that it is most rarely obtained, sadurlabha, and makes even liberation seem trifling, moksha lagruta krit. Even an atomic particle of this bhava completely destroys the darkness of ignorance at the root. The flower of bhava emanates a charming fragrance that invites Sri Madhusudan, causing him to manifest directly before the devotee. Some additional commentary here. Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura also states that bhava, or reti, is like the blossoming flower of the wish-fulfilling vine of bhakti. The external brilliance of this flower of bhava is sadurlabha, meaning that bhava is most rarely attained. By one's extensive practice of sadhana and by the mercy of sadhu, guru, and Sri Hari, one obtains the extremely rare wealth of bhava. The internal brilliance of this flower is moksha lagruta krit, meaning that bhava renders insignificant even the liberation jnanis and yogis attain after great difficulty. Therefore, the two characteristics of Bhava-bhakti are moksha lagruta krit, it renders liberation insignificance, and sadurlabha, it is rarely attained. Srila Rupa Goswami has said of moksha lagruta krit, when Bhava-bhakti awakens in the heart, even slightly, the four objects of human pursuit, namely dharma, duty in accordance with religious principles, artha, wealth, kama, desire for sense pleasure, and moksha, emancipation, appear as insignificant and worthless as straw. He has quoted the following evidence from Sri Narada Pancharatra in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. All types of liberation, all mystic perfections, and all varieties of material enjoyment follow like maidservants behind the great queen Bhakti Devi. In reference to the characteristics of Sadurlabha, Srila Rupa Goswami has said, a person cannot obtain devotion to Sri Hari even after forsaking attachment to material sense objects and engagement in numerous spiritual practices over an extended period of time. Moreover, Sri Hari does not easily bestow bhakti to him. For these two reasons, Hari bhakti is rarely obtained. As long as one does not develop a deep attachment to attaining Prem Bhakti, Sri Hari does not bestow it. Upon attaining just one atomic particle of this Bhava-bhakti, the total darkness of ignorance and nescience in the heart is completely dispelled. A bumblebee becomes so attracted to the fragrance of a blossoming flower that it becomes intoxicated by it. It approaches the flower and with great relish drinks its honey. Similarly, Bhagavan Sri Madhusudana is attracted to the fragrance emanating from the flower of bhava within the heart of the devotee. He personally manifests in the devotee's heart and drinks the honey of that flower, thus becoming intoxicated. Srila Visvanatha continues, a heart melted with bhava drenches the limbs of Bhagavan. What more can be said? The tendencies of the devotee's heart, chitta-vritti, are like a heap of sesame seeds. Bhava causes these tendencies to become fragrant and melt, becoming oil, and thus capable of immediately drenching all the limbs of Sri Bhagavan with affection. When this bhava manifests, it makes its recipient worshipful for Lord Brahma and others, even if that recipient is a chandala, an outcast dog-eater. When this bhava awakens, the jata rati bhakta, one in whom bhava has risen, relishes the darkish complexion of Rajendra Nandana Sri Krishna's limbs, the reddish hue of his eyes and lips, the whitish brilliance emanating from his smiling, moon-like lotus face, and the yellow luster of his cloth and ornaments. In this way, he experiences Sri Krishna as being near to him. The devotee's voice becomes choked, and he drenches his body in a continuous flood of tears. Sometimes that devotee hankers to make, as the ornaments of his ears, the sweet sound of Sri Krishna's flute, the tinkling of Sri Krishna's ankle bells, the melodious speech emanating from Sri Krishna's sweet voice, and Sri Krishna's direct order to serve his lotus feet. Searching them out, the devotee circumambulates different places, and time and again he stops, pricks his ears, and stands motionless to try to perceive the sound. Sometimes he wonders, what will the touch of the lotus hands of Rajendra Nandana Sri Krishna be like? In his ecstasy, as if experiencing that touch, all the hairs on his body stand on end. He sometimes thinks he is experiencing the beautiful fragrance of Sri Krishna's transcendental body. Flaring his nostrils, he inhales time and again in order to become familiar with that fragrance. And sometimes he thinks, alas, alas, when will I ever be fortunate enough to taste the nectar of Sri Samasundar's lips? His tongue then proceeds to lick his lips in immense happiness, as if they bear that nectar. Sometimes, within his heart, he obtains a momentary vision, spurti, of his beloved Sri Krishna. Thinking that he has directly achieved him, his heart begins to dance in happiness. At that time, he becomes delirious at the thought that he has attained the wealth of relishing Bhagavan's sweetness. And again, when that momentary vision disappears, he becomes restless and full of lamentation. Thus, such a devotee, in whose heart bhava has awakened, decorates his soul with the various sanchari bhavs, ecstatic emotions that rise and fall in the ocean of one's eternal mood, and thus becomes beautifully situated. Some additional commentary on what Visvanatha has just presented. The following example from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu illustrates this. O intelligent person, do not worry that the blazing flames of the forest fire of material existence continue to exist, despite your becoming drenched in tears that fell when you heard the river-like flow of narrations about Sri Bhagavan. Extreme horripilation that resembles many fish dancing can be seen on your limbs, and thus it seems that very soon the black cloud, Krishna Megha, which is filled with a shower of mercy that destroys the hankering for worldly nectar, will rise in the sky of your heart. In other words, when tears flow in a continuous stream as a result of hearing narrations about Sri Bhagavan, there is no need to worry about worldly bondage, because very soon Sri Krishna will bestow his mercy. At this stage of rati, Hari Katha tastes like nectar, and the desire for anything else vacates the heart. Viswanath continues, the intelligence of the devotee who has attained bhava is incessantly fixed on attaining his soul-cherished goal. In each of the 3 stages of consciousness, wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, he remains a traveler on the path of constant remembrance of Sri Bhagavan. The Jata Rati Sadhika reaches a state in which remembrance of Sri Hari proceeds in an uninterrupted manner, Dhruva Anusmriti. Since he receives an uninterrupted internal vision and continual realization of Rajendanandana's intrinsic beauties, Swarup Lavanya. Whether he is asleep, awake, or in deep sleep, he is always restless to obtain the service of Sri Krishna's lotus feet. His remembrance of Sri Krishna does not break even for a moment. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to this presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Thakura's Madhurya Kadambini. I hope it has nourished your understanding and enlivened your spiritual practice. Hare Krishna.